Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going beyond the basic facts about Anne Frank's diary
Okay.
to uncover the emotions and the daily realities behind her words. It's not just history, it's a young girl's perspective on one of the darkest periods in human history.
Absolutely. What's so captivating about Anne's diary is its immediacy.
Yeah.
It's not a, polished reflection
Right.
written years later,
Yeah.
but raw, unfiltered thoughts jotted down as events unfolded.
Wow.
We really get to experience the world through her eyes.
And it really makes you wonder, how she found the strength to write amidst so much fear and uncertainty.
Right.
Right from the start, she mentions why she decided to even keep a diary.
Yeah, it stemmed from a lack of a true confidant, someone she could have deep, meaningful conversations with,
Yeah.
and longed for more than just gossip about boys in school. She craved intellectual connection.
That's pretty insightful for someone her age, don't you think?
I think so, yeah.
And that need for genuine connection becomes even more poignant, considering what she went through.
Right.
Before we get to the heavier stuff, Anne shares these snippets of her, like, quote-unquote, normal life, attending school, navigating the attention of boys,
Right.
even finding humor in her teacher's endless assignments about, of all things, chattering ducks.
It's almost jarring to think about, isn't it?
Totally jarring.
This very ordinary teenage life suddenly ripped away.
It really underscores the magnitude of their situation.
Yeah.
The transition to hiding, as Anne describes it, seems incredibly sudden and terrifying.
Oh.
Can you walk us through that moment?
Well, they had a plan in place,
Okay.
but it was still a frantic scramble. A Nazi officer showed up at their house, sending the family into immediate action.
Oh, no.
Luckily, Mr. Goldschmidt, one of their helpers, had preemptively spread a rumor that they'd escaped to Switzerland,
What?
throwing the Nazis off their trail.
Wow, that was some quick thinking under pressure.
Right.
Talk about a high-stakes escape.
Right.
So they disappear into this secret annex, this hidden world within a world. What can you tell us about life in hiding?
Life in the annex was incredibly restrictive. You had 8 people
8 people?
living in extremely cramped quarters,
Oh, my gosh.
sharing a single bathroom, constantly needing to stay quiet during the day to avoid detection.
Wow.
They even had a set of annex rules to maintain order and minimize noise.
Annex rules.
Yeah, imagine having to tiptoe around your own home, unable to speak freely,
Right.
always aware of the potential consequences.
I'm feeling claustrophobic just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the constant tension and strain on everyone.
Oh, absolutely. And that pressure cooker environment inevitably led to conflicts.
Oh, yeah.
Anne frequently writes about the adults bickering, often over the most trivial things.
Really?
In one instance, Mrs. Van Daan completely loses it when her husband criticizes her use of the butter.
No way.
It seems absurd, but when you're living in such close quarters with limited resources, even minor things can become major sources of tension.
It's a reminder that despite the extraordinary circumstances, they were still ordinary people with
Yeah.
their own flaws and frustrations.
Exactly.
How did Anne cope with all this stress, especially at such a young age?
Her diary became her lifeline.
Okay.
It was her outlet for expressing her feelings, both the joys and the frustrations.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see how she uses writing to process her experiences, to make sense of this chaotic world thrust upon her.
Right.
Beyond writing, she also found comfort in learning.
I know she was an avid reader. Did she also continue her studies while in hiding?
Absolutely. She devoured every book and magazine she could get her hands on
Wow.
and continued her education independently, showing a real hunger for knowledge even in confinement.
That's amazing.
And it wasn't just books.
Yeah.
Anne found solace in the simplest things, like observing the sky from the attic window.
Really?
She writes about finding immense comfort in nature, a reminder that beauty and hope can exist even in the darkest of times.
It's a testament to her spirit, finding ways to connect with something bigger than herself amidst such a challenging situation.
Yeah.
One relationship that stands out is her connection with Peter Van Daan.
Hmm.
Can you tell us about how that dynamic unfolded?
Their relationship was a roller coaster evolving throughout the diary.
Okay.
They began by constantly bickering like siblings,
Oh,
but gradually formed a deeper bond.
I see.
Anne started confiding in Peter, sharing her dreams, fears,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually romantic feelings blossomed.
Wow.
It's interesting how their connection deepened as their world shrunk.
It speaks to that need for human connection, especially in isolation.
Right.
It's fascinating that Anne doesn't just focus on her personal struggles. She
Yeah.
also reflects on broader societal issues like gender inequality.
It's remarkable how insightful her observations are, especially for someone so young.
Yeah.
She questioned why women were often seen as inferior,
Right.
expressing frustration that their strengths and sacrifices weren't recognized or valued,
That's correct.
and firmly believed women deserved equal respect and opportunities.
Wow.
A perspective that resonates even more strongly when you consider the prevailing attitudes of the time.
She was definitely ahead of her time.
I think.
But amidst all the fear and uncertainty, Anne also describes moments of joy and normalcy in the annex.
Yeah,
It wasn't all doom and gloom, was it?
you're absolutely right. It
Yeah.
wasn't all darkness.
Okay, good.
They found ways to celebrate holidays like St. Nicholas Day and Hanukkah,
Uh-huh.
using whatever limited resources they had to maintain some sense of tradition and joy.
Wow.
These celebrations, though, subdued compared to their pre-war life,
Right.
offered a much-needed reprieve from their constant fear.
I can imagine.
What strikes me is their determination to find light in the darkness.
It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, isn't it?
It is.
That even in the face of unimaginable hardship,
Yeah.
we still seek moments of joy and connection.
Precisely, those moments of lightness become even more powerful when you consider the constant threat they lived under. As the war progressed, the fear and uncertainty only intensified for those in hiding.
Can you elaborate on these specific dangers they faced? It's easy to forget how vulnerable they truly were.
Yeah.
It's chilling to think they were living with a sword hanging over their heads, never knowing when their luck might run out. Did the people in hiding have any sense of what was happening in the outside world?
They relied heavily on their helpers for news clinging to every scrap of information. Imagine living in a bubble, cut off from the world, your only connection to reality coming through hushed whispers and smuggled newspapers.
It must have been incredibly frustrating and isolating. Were there any specific events that stand out in the diary as particularly impactful for them?
One event that deeply affected everyone was the break-in at the warehouse below their hiding place.
Oh, wow.
In April 1944,
Okay.
thieves ransacked the building.
Right.
And although it wasn't directly related to the annex,
Uh-huh.
it sent shockwaves through everyone in hiding.
It makes sense. Even a seemingly unrelated event could shatter their fragile sense of security.
Exactly. The break-in amplified their existing fears.
Yep.
Anne wrote about constantly looking over their shoulders,
Right.
wondering if they'd been seen or heard,
Uh-huh.
if the thieves had alerted the authorities.
That constant fear must have been incredibly draining, both mentally and emotionally.
Absolutely.
Mm.
It's a stark reminder of just how vulnerable they were.
Yeah.
Their survival depended entirely on secrecy, on the goodwill of their helpers,
Right.
and frankly on luck.
It's remarkable how they managed to hold on to hope for so long despite living under such immense pressure.
It truly is. And Anne's diary isn't just a historical record.
Right.
It's a window into her personal journey, her coming of age amidst extraordinary circumstances.
I see.
Her diary reveals her raw emotions, her struggles with identity,
Yeah.
and her evolving relationships with those around her.
She had some intense relationships with those in the annex, didn't she?
She did.
What insights did her diary offer into those dynamics?
Her relationship with her mother, for example, was quite complex
Yeah.
and often expressed feelings of frustration
Right.
and a lack of understanding between them.
Yeah.
Their approaches to dealing with hardship differed greatly.
I'm curious to hear more about that. How did their perspectives differ?
Anne's mother encouraged her to focus on gratitude,
Okay.
to think about the suffering in the world,
Yeah.
and be thankful she wasn't experiencing it herself.
That's a bit of a bleak perspective, especially given their circumstances.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Anne's own advice,
Yeah.
which she shares in her diary, is completely different.
Oh, really?
She encourages finding happiness from within, connecting with nature,
Uh-huh.
and focusing on the beauty that still existed in the world.
Wow.
She even encourages her readers to try it.
Really?
It's a powerful message, even today.
It's a much more proactive and hopeful approach,
Right?
and very much in line with her general outlook on life.
Mm.
She was so insightful for her age. I'm struck by her awareness of not just her own emotions, but also the complexities of the world around her. Despite being isolated, she still sought to understand the bigger picture.
Her hunger for knowledge was incredible. She read everything she could get her hands on,
Right.
listened intently to the radio,
Uh-huh.
and reflected on the events shaping the world beyond the annex.
I see.
For instance, she wrote about her shock and disgust upon learning about the atrocities being committed by the Nazis.
Wow.
It was devastating for her to realize the full extent of the horrors unfolding outside.
Right.
But even in the face of such darkness, She clung to her belief in the inherent goodness of humanity.
It's incredible that she didn't let cynicism consume her. It would have been so easy to become disillusioned.
Absolutely. Her ability to hold on to hope is one of the most inspiring aspects of her story. In one passage, she writes, "In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart." It's a testament to her resilience and optimism.
It's a powerful statement that continues to resonate with people even today. There's something so universal about her experiences, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. While her story is rooted in a specific historical context, the themes she explores transcend time and place.
Yeah.
She writes about the challenges of growing up, navigating relationships, finding your voice,
Mm-hmm.
and searching for meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and unfair.
Right.
These are things we all grapple with.
It's no wonder her diary continues to touch so many people even decades later. It's not just a historical document, it's a deeply personal and relatable story about the human experience.
Exactly. And through her words, she reminds us of the importance of never giving up hope,
Right.
of believing in the good in people,
Yeah.
and of cherishing every moment.
We've talked about the break-in and the anxiety surrounding it. Were there any other instances where the threat of discovery felt particularly real and immediate for those in hiding?
One event that comes to mind is the Allied landings in Normandy, or D-Day as we know it. It brought a surge of hope to the Annex, but it also heightened their vulnerability.
It seems counterintuitive that a positive event like D-Day would increase their anxiety. Can you explain that?
Well, while the landings offered a glimmer of hope for eventual liberation, they also knew it could make their situation more dangerous in the short term.
Right.
Increased activity and scrutiny from the Nazis meant a greater risk of being discovered. It's a reminder that even amidst positive developments, there was still a long and uncertain road ahead.
It must have been a roller coaster of emotions for them. Hope mixed with constant fear, excitement tempered by caution.
Exactly, and those conflicting emotions come through so vividly in Anne's writing.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the historical context and the external challenges they faced.
Right.
But what continues to fascinate me is how Anne uses her diary to explore her own inner world, her evolving sense of self.
She was remarkably self-aware for her age.
Hmm.
Her diary isn't just a record of events, it's a chronicle of her personal growth and transformation.
You're absolutely right. She grapples with her identity, her relationships, her faith,
Mm-hmm.
and her place in the world, for instance. She expresses a lot of frustration with the societal expectations placed on women at the time.
I'm curious to hear more about that. What specifically bothered her?
She questioned why women were often seen as inferior to men,
Yeah.
why their contributions were undervalued, and why they were expected to be content with a limited set of roles. She even boldly argues in one entry that women are stronger and more resilient than men, citing the pain of childbirth as an example.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement,
Hmm.
especially considering the time period.
It shows how deeply she thought about these issues and how determined she was to challenge the status quo.
It's a testament to her intelligence and her independent spirit.
Absolutely, and those qualities shine through in all aspects of her writing. She was also incredibly observant,
Yeah.
capturing the nuances of the relationships within the Annex with remarkable clarity.
Her relationship with Peter Van Dunn is particularly fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
It evolves so much throughout the diary.
It does. It's a journey from initial annoyance to deep friendship and eventually a budding romance. Their conversations become increasingly intimate and revealing,
Right.
covering everything from their families and personal fears to their hopes for the future. They find solace in each other's company,
I see.
a safe space to confide in and be themselves.
There's one passage that always stuck with me. It's where Anne describes sitting with Peter in the attic watching the stars.
Oh, yes, that's a beautiful one. She writes about how looking up at the vastness of the sky made her feel connected to something bigger than herself, a sense of peace amidst the chaos.
Yeah.
She even encourages her readers to try it, saying, "While you can look fearlessly at the sky, you'll know that you're pure within and will find happiness again."
It's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's still beauty and wonder to be found if we just take the time to look for it.
Exactly, and that's one of the enduring lessons of Anne's diary. It's not just a story of suffering and loss. It's also a story of hope, resilience, and the power that in human spirit to endure even in the face of unimaginable hardship.
It's a reminder that even in the most difficult circumstances, there are still moments of beauty, connection, and joy to be found.
It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the importance of holding on to hope, and the enduring power of human connection.
Well, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Anne Frank's diary. It's been an incredibly moving and insightful exploration.
I agree. Anne's words have a way of staying with you long after you've closed the book. They challenge us, inspire us,
Yeah.
and remind us of the importance of cherishing every moment.
Her story is a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, we can find moments of beauty, hope, and connection. As Anne herself wrote, "In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart."
It's a beautiful sentiment and one that we should all strive to live by.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the spirit of Anne Frank alive in your hearts.